I'm death warmed over. No, I'm not. I'm the Book Baron. Welcome in, everybody. You might be asking yourself, who is this swamp witch that's appearing on screen with the hamster eyes? 'Tis I, 'tis Baron. I am just still in the process of getting over being sick. I'm feeling a little bit better right now. My voice is coming back. Just a heads up, there's probably gonna be more jump cuts in this video than normal. Not just because I'm screwing up, but because I'm having coughing fits, but my voice is back. I have a little energy, and honestly, I just really want to get up off the couch and do something and feel a little bit productive. So I'm going to film kind of in chunks while I still feel okay. April was really busy for me. I was traveling 50% of the time, which was a lot. Probably the reason my body's like, flag on the play, forced time out. The lower energy, the earthworm vibe that I'm bringing to this. Actually, you know what I look like is the witch from Snow White. Apple. So I've got my big dumb cup. Big dumb cup to keep me hydrated and energized. I have my notes over here, and let's just jump into the books that I read for April. So first up, I'm going to talk about a series as a single book because honestly, that's how I read it. The series is called Filthy Rich Americans. So it starts with The Initiation by Nikki Sloan. The second book is The Obsession. I think the third book is The Deception. So this is about a family that is very powerful called the Hale family. They own Hale Banking and Holding. They get new members of their board, and there's a lot of whispers about how that actually happens. It seems to be that one woman goes into this boardroom with a bunch of guys, and then suddenly they have a new board member. Lots of rumors, lots of suspicions, lots of secrets. So our heroine, her sister is supposed to marry into this family because it's kind of like arranged. But unfortunately, something befalls her sister and the heroine must take her place, which means she is going to have to marry the devil himself, Royce Hale. He's charming and he's ruthless and he's really dangerous because he'll do whatever he wants to get whatever he wants. And now she's at his mercy and under his control and must completely change herself in order to fit into this family and also save her own family because her family needs the money from this arranged marriage in order to pay off a bunch of debts. Thoughts on this series? This is single POV from the heroine's perspective. I burned through these on my very first work trip. It was like perfect because they were, I could like finish one on a plane ride. And it kind of reminds me of American Queen because you are dealing with like politics of the rich and privileged, but there's also kind of this like mythology component that provides some of the framework. Royce is a very fun character in that he's one of those people that really has a good control and good grip on what he's doing, and it's fascinating to watch his mind work. The problem is though that he can be kind of paternalistic at times, which can get frustrating, where he like just withholds information from the heroine because it's for her own good. Despite all of that though, it definitely feels like the two of them against the family trying to survive this world and trying to just like make things work. So I did like that dynamic because even though it didn't always feel like you had all of the pieces because Royce was withholding them, it still felt like he always had the heroine's best interest at heart. There's definitely an element of like mind games because the family is conniving and you don't really know who to trust. There is a bit of a love triangle that ends up emerging out of like the second and third book, and I will say I really didn't actually know who was going to end up being the end goal man. What am I saying? End game? Is that the word? Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. I think that definitely kind of ramped up the drama. I'm pretty much giving this series a rating of 4 stars. So there is an interconnected book. That is the 4th book. It's hard to say it's interconnected because you have to have read the other books in order to enjoy this book, but first 3 are the core series, but it's called Redemption, also by Nikki Sloan, obviously. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to reveal the characters or really tell you too much about it because it's the man that doesn't get the heroine at the end of book 3. I liked this book, but I didn't like it as much as the original series because although I got why the hero and heroine definitely appealed to one another because their minds work very similarly, it's just that one operates in the business world and is manipulative there, and the other one is like more about like society and perception. But I just felt like their relationship was like a little bit cliche, billionaire, BDSM, and I just didn't feel like it quite delivered on the mind games of the first book, but it was still very fun. I still really enjoyed getting this story, so I'm giving it a rating of 3.5 stars. Then I moved on to The Professor by Skye Warren. This is the first in the Tanglewood series University. I need to reposition myself. I just realized how much I'm slouching. Oh, I'm gonna prop myself against my knees. Oh, there we go. Okay. I have to say something. Yeah, you really didn't fix the slouching there, girly pop. What are you doing? Professor, student, and ex's dad. Basically, the premise of this is that it was supposed to be a one-night stand. The heroine's trying to pay for her books, so she goes a-hookin', turn some tricks. And it's like the first time she's ever done anything like this. She doesn't think that she's ever gonna see this amazing, enigmatic stranger ever again. But she goes to class, and whoopsie-doopsies, it's her professor, who also happens to be her ex-boyfriend's dad. She knows she should stay away. He knows that he should stay away, but they have an undeniable pull. You know how those things go. There's a sinister secret society reemerging in the halls of this university. So the shadows are creeping. Thoughts on this one? This started off so strong. I was so sad that I didn't end up liking this book. I felt like we had decent stakes, and I felt like it had a more realistic quality to it, just with how the initial one-night stand was framed. It very quickly got overloaded. This isn't a very long book, and it just felt like there was a lot of weird extra bits, and it just didn't feel like anything had a lot of breathing time. So we've got like a pop star best friend that just like gets thrown in there, an abusive family that's lying to her. There's the secret society lurking in the background, and it just started to feel like the plot was a little bit overstuffed and underdeveloped in a lot of ways because there's just like a few too many things. Sadly, although the secret society was promising at first, it felt pretty corny after a while. It was really focused on Shakespeare, which I thought was, you know, fine. I mean, that sounds kind of like a traditional, like, dark academia secret society type deal. It just seemed to exist because scary. They seemed to target her for no reason. And towards the end, I just found that like the emotional beats weren't really landing because we hadn't done a good job of like developing the relationship between the characters. Wish there had been fewer subplots, I think is really what this comes down to. I give it a rating of 2 stars. Next up, I read Midwinter, Mail Order Bride by Katie Wilde, and this is the first in the Deadland series. So this is a fantasy romance series, but I think they're all like novella length. Basically, our hero's name is Kale, and he liberated his people from a very like tyrannical, yeah, that's a word, tyrannical king. So he's really seen as this big, brutal warrior, and he's really feared across the lands. And after he figured out that noble women were mostly bedding him out of fear, he just decided like, no more ladies. So then his court's like, hey, your needs aren't getting met. We're a little bit concerned about that, not gonna lie. They're desperate for a solution, so they basically put out a call for a bride. Well, no one wants to answer it because he's this big, brutal warrior guy. They end up finding Anya, who at first seems to be stepping forward willingly because she has volunteered herself. She ends up stepping up, but it turns out it's because Princess Anya isn't actually like looking for love. She's just trying to find some power, and this arrangement will offer that to her. Because Kale never really asked for this bride, and he seems suspicious of her motives because not only does she seem to have kind of a disdain for him, she also admits to kind of scheming against him pretty quick off the bat. He decides he's going to send her back. So Anya is feeling a little bit rejected. She's got basically the trip home with him to find a way to scheme herself back into his good graces. I really like this. The world was very unique. It kind of reminded me of older high fantasy books, kind of had that fairy tale quality. It was in third POV, which I think kind of contributed to that. There was so much longing in that book too, for considering how short it is. I was really impressed with how rich the world was. The hero, the thing that I really liked about him is he is a brute and he is gruff, but he's not really cruel. He's kind of unpolished. And so he's just not used to playing the king games, the politic games. He's not used to the pomp and circumstance. He's just got a lot of rough edges, and he's not great at communicating for himself. He just wants to be like really direct. And the heroine, I really liked her too because she was quite capable, proved herself with a sword over and over again. I give this a rating of 4 stars. I really enjoyed this series. I definitely think this will be another series that I will pick up and read on planes because it is like the perfect length. Go start to finish on a plane ride. Next up, I have Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This is the first in the Rose Hill series. It's a small town, childhood, friends to lovers, second chance romance. I guess it's kind of single parent. So Ford Grant is a grumpy billionaire in this small town of Rose Hill. He's kind of hoping for some more peace and quiet. He's made a name for himself in the music industry by releasing an app. He's also wanting to start like a label / recording studio retreat area in this small town that he used to spend a lot of time at. But he ends up getting a whole lot more than what he bargained for. He finds out that he has a 12-year-old daughter. A little bit unconventional. Basically, he made a deposit for some money back in college, and that that is now a human person and she needs his help, so she ends up staying with him. But also his best friend's little sister Rosie is now working for him and in town because she was unceremoniously fired because she was harassed by an exec at her company. So these two now have to be in close proximity working together. The only problem is that as things are starting to heat up between them, as they recall old memories, Rosie is still in a relationship. And Ford knows that getting involved with her is a terrible idea and he is just trying to resist. I ended up DNFing this the last time that I read it. I did make it through this time. I had the audiobook. Yay. Last time I just stopped reading it because I completely forgot I was reading it. I just think this is a pretty forgettable read overall. The setup is really corny and contrived. A sperm donor kid shows up and she doesn't contribute really to the relationship. So it was just really weird that she was able to track down this bio dad. He's got all this money. He asks 0 questions. He has no concerns about the liability or that like someone might be trying to take advantage of his money. Like ask a question for the love of God. Also, she played no actual role in the relationship. She could have been cut out of this book entirely and we still would have had the same romance. The hero and heroine I think are fine. I don't love them. I don't hate them. They don't have the most strong or exciting personalities. They did have good banter over email, which did make me giggle, but I just didn't feel like that really ended up translating to actual chemistry. This is fine. It's just very unremarkable. 3 very forgettable stars, and I will finally be taking this in to resell it. Next up, I read Eric the Tempered, and this is by Denali Day. So this is the second book in the Dorpiri Brides series. It's a fantasy romance. It's got dragons. It's kind of got a barbarian feel. Our heroine ends up being betrayed and sold to a very cruel fate by her husband. Basically, she's sold to a brothel. She's expected to like earn her keep. So Taisha ends up escaping into the night, hoping to never return, but it turns out she's in like pretty immediate danger. In her attempts to escape, she ends up running into this warrior and his dragon who ends up helping to save her, but he becomes injured in the process. And so she takes flight on this very dangerous beast in hopes that it will just like take her to his home so she can get him some help. She ends up finding herself in the mountains with this warrior clan she's never heard of. And this town ends up very quickly accepting her because they mistakenly believe that this is the bride Eric was sent to seek out. Basically, he's a certain rank. And so at that point, they're like, go find a bride from the lowlands. And they thought that's who she was. But Eric has a secret. There's a reason he actually doesn't want a bride. He is trying to resist her, despite the fact that he is very drawn to her. Taisha basically has a year in order to capture Eric's heart and stay here. This is the exact type of thing when I'm talking about a barbarian fantasy. This is what I want. I don't really want to say too much because like I feel like the story really evolves over the book quite a bit, and part of the fun is like discovering more about the clan. This is another that's third POV. I think that might be a key in what makes me like certain high fantasies is that third person POV. I love that they both really want each other, but have to overcome a lot of cultural differences and just like easy miscommunications that happen. And I think it makes for amazing tension, but also great forced proximity. Once again, kind of similar to the Midwinter Mail Order Bride, the hero is a barbarian. He's just unrefined. He's not gentle, but he's not intentionally cruel. Sometimes cruel things kind of seem like they happen and he comes off gruff. One thing that I'll warn you about, this one is like closed door, but like the door's cracked. You get like the lead out, but you don't get the actual like act itself. I didn't love the twist. I felt like that didn't really land for me, but outside of that, I really enjoyed it, giving it a rating of 4 stars. All right, next up I read Kiss of the Bassilis, and this is by Lindsay Straub, I think. First in a series, it's a dark fantasy romance. In this world, there's 13 contestants? Jesus Christ. There's 13 contestants that train with basilisks, which seem to be snake people shifters, who teach them the power of seduction. The goal is for one of them to use those tactics to win the hand of the prince. This was like a bachelor type competition. Temperance is one of the girls. She is matched with Caspian to train her as one of the basilisks. He is the Serpent King and has trained most of the recent winners, it seems. So she actually has a decent chance, but she finds herself drawn to both Caspian and the prince. Caught between 2 men, what will she do? So I ended up lightly DNFing this book. This book reads so goofy. I was kind of expecting something a little bit grittier. It's like YA feeling in its kind of like corny, tropey clunkiness. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it just feels very young and immature, but then it's like adult horny. It's just a really bit It's a really bit odd. Yep, good English. It's a little bit odd in that way. I found myself laughing a lot. I don't think I was supposed to be laughing, to be honest, but I did find it funny because it was just like so absurd. Like, if someone told me this was satire, that would make a lot more sense to me than this being like a serious dark fantasy. It's just really ridiculous. The writing isn't very good, to be honest. I did end up DNFing this because it just wasn't quite the mood I was in. Got maybe 20% into this, but no rating, but I will come back to this at some point when I need a good giggle. Next up, I read The Counselor by Celia Aaron. This is the first in the Acquisition series. This is a dark romance with a secret society. Basically, in Louisiana, the Southern elite every 10 years hold a tournament to see who will be their sovereign. And the sovereign is the person that ends up running this social elite and kind of managing them and ultimately has control for like the next 10 years. Sinclair is our hero. He is in the running for this, and he plans to win by acquiring Stella, our heroine. So Stella kind of got mixed up because her father has been railroaded and is going to be forced to go to prison by Sinclair, but he offers her a way out, for her to save her father. She participates in this for 1 year, signs his contract, is at his beck and call. If she stays, then her father will stay out of prison. I think this book, it was interesting because it started off really intense feeling, and then it like softened up a lot. And then it would like be really intense, and then it would like soften a whole lot. I didn't really love the heroine very much. I wanted to. It's not like she was awful or like unlikable. It's just that she wasn't very crafty for this type of scenario. Like, she makes a lot of very split-second decisions that aren't well thought out. She would just like run and try and escape, and shocker, she's not successful. Rather than trying to like manipulate someone or find an opportunity to like weasel her way out, she was just missing a little bit of grit for me. The hero's pretty much what you would expect as an asshole billionaire that's trying to keep a captive, but also has the hots for her. Pretty standard par for the course. Even though I just kind of feel a little bit lackluster about this book, I am like really morbidly curious about like what the acquisition actually is and why these twisted elements are like part of the acquisition. What I didn't get is like when we were at the ball, I was like, why is this ball taking place? Why is this part of the acquisition? Why are these trials and things happening? Is it to test the sovereign to see what he's capable of? Is it about demonstrating that they have control? Is there something in particular that they're supposed to be doing with the person that they've acquired other than putting it through these demonstrations? Just like a lot that I had a lot of questions about. Now, that could all unfold later in the series, and maybe that all gets answered. My rating on this might change depending on how the rest of the series turns out. Right now, my tentative rating is 4 stars because I think it's like a solid book. Also, I had a massive brain glitch like during this book. They were talking about tattooing people while they were drinking, and I was like, can you imagine how bad the bleeding would be? Oh my god. All right, next up I read Indebted, and this is by Pepper Winters. This is the first in a series. It's a dark romance. It's captive. Oh, I'm running out of breath and I'm starting to get a little bit tired. I might need to take a break here. Basically, Nyla's family is in debt. This debt is always paid by the firstborn daughter of the sinner's family. Jethro Hawk is the person that is collecting the debt as a part of his inheritance on his 29th birthday. Odd number, weird choice, but here we are. Basically, she is his until the debt is paid, and he can more or less do whatever he wants. There's no bounds. She just has to obey him and fulfill the payment. Thoughts on this? This definitely feels dated. It feels very tropey, almost fanficky. And like when I say fanficky, it's like that not well plotted out, but here's like a wild thing that I want to have happen as the author. And so I'm just gonna like write it, even though it doesn't fully make sense. Like, one of the things that I just never got over was the fact that they're both British and he flies to Italy to kidnap her. Why? Why not wait till she's back in England? Doesn't that just make more sense? It's like got really high emotions that kind of oscillate very quickly, but it feels disproportionate to actually what's happening. And also, weirdly, she was a bit horny for her brother, which I didn't love. Anyways, at 50%, I got really bored, didn't care about a single character, so I DNF'd it, so I'm not giving it a rating. All right, I'm gonna take a little break here because I can just feel myself losing steam. I'm gonna nap, and then I will come back at you. The lighting might be different, but I will see you in a second when I'm a little bit recovered. I did not realize how much filming was gonna make me winded. Okay, see you soon. All right, I'm back. I'm feeling a little bit better now that I've rested. The lighting still kind of looks the same, so hopefully that holds out. I've got my big dumb cup refilled.
Big dumb cups.
Let's do this. Next up I have Enslaved, and this is by Marissa Honeycutt. This is the first in a proper series and is a dark captor-captive romance. Anna has a pretty regular life, but when her family passes abruptly in a car accident, she comes under the control of some pretty nefarious people who have an entire plan for how her life is gonna look. She is held captive, trained, and used as a tool. The blurb itself says that she has unique gifts, but honestly, I don't know what that's referring to. If that's referring to the training that she underwent, because she was like trained as a courtesan with, like, there's other courtesans. So anyway, one man in particular desires to use her as a weapon. Basically, she's kind of like spying on some of the elite as she's like rented out. So she's basically, they're using her courtesan skills and weaponizing them, but she's also like sort of his mistress. Anyways, she starts having these visions of a guy that are of particular interest to the guy that has control over her and seems set on destroying this man. This book was so odd. The beginning was really strong. It sucked me in. I was intrigued. I was grossed out. I wanted to see what was happening next. But I think where this really failed is that like the writing was incredibly immature. It didn't feel like there was clear direction to the story. It didn't feel like it was very character driven. It kind of felt like we were just like bumbling through a series of incidents, and there wasn't a lot of logic or like rules to the world that like held true. So it was just kind of confusing because things would be said in one scene but they wouldn't hold true in the next one. But if any man comes onto her, she just immediately jumps into bed with them, and so it felt like it derailed and detoured. That's not, I don't think that's a word. Detour is a word. Detoured? I don't think you can do that in the past tense. It doesn't matter. You know what happened. It just detracted a lot from the book, and it's not really clear if she's into it, if that's like really a directive, or she just doesn't know how to say no because of her training. Like, she has no motives. It's very unclear. There's really not a lot of romance build with the mystery man. There's like a few moments like towards the beginning and one at the middle and like a little bit at the end. So there's not a ton of time spent like building that or figuring out who he is or what role he plays. It's not really clear what the secret society does, why it exists, why someone would join. Again, there was like mention of her having like special traits or whatever. I still don't find it clear as to why she's supposedly like better or different than these other women that are in the house. The writing felt immature. It felt not well researched. There's no clear motives, no clear direction. It just kind of felt like this brain dump. I'm definitely intrigued by the premise, but I just don't think I'll be satisfied with any of the answers that I get based on the answers I've already gotten. So I don't think I'm going to continue in this series. Oh, also had a total brain blip with this book too. In this, like, piercings on the body mean different things and denote different rank and stuff like that of like who you are. But they have like a ceremony at one point where they're piercing people. They used a piercing gun on like body parts. I have a lot of body piercings. Not once has a piercing gun been used. You use a needle. I was just like, what is happening right now? Made absolutely no sense. Anyways, rating 2 stars. Next up, I read A Heart of Frost and Scars by Pam Godwin. This is the 3rd book in the Frozen Fate series. It's a dark, kind of romantic suspense, why choose, and it has like a survival wilderness element to the series. I'm going to tell you about the first book so I don't spoil the series for you, but basically Frankie is abducted and taken to a remote cabin in the Alaskan bush, and she finds herself at the mercy of 4 rugged men that are very unsocialized. In order to escape, she needs to learn their secrets and tries to find out why she was taken in the first place, but ends up uncovering how much love and loyalty and basically anything good can be used as weapons against you in this place. And the secrets really go a lot deeper than she really imagined, and also has to survive these very harsh conditions of surviving in the bush of Alaska. I'm going to really try and be vague with this one, so I apologize, but if you haven't read the series, highly recommend it. It is really very good. I don't want to ruin it for you, but the first like third of the book to like half of it, I felt like were really boring. Unfortunately, I was missing the high stakes. I was missing the problem solving, that kind of like unexpected factor. I know that they've had a lot of trauma and they need to deal with it, but I felt like we spent a little bit too much time in this spot. We had 3 dudes growling at each other, not talking about their feelings, talking about how strong they thought the heroine was, and measuring their dick. Honestly, at a certain point, I kind of blended the guys together for the most part. Thankfully, halfway through, it finally picked up and it got back on track with the mystery, and it was like so much more engaging. So you're like putting together clues and you're suspecting a lot of different people. The last 100 pages were like straight out of the SJM School of Writing. Action, adventure, death, violence. It was bonkers. And then the epilogue, corny as full on eye rolled. But love that I got the wrap up to the series. I'm so happy my babies have their HEA. 4 stars. Next up, I buddy read Sovereign by Rhea Morris Edwards with Lynn from Lynn's Romance Libraries. This is the first in an interconnected series. It's BDSM, like Western small town romance. Our heroine's name is Kira, and after having a pretty loveless, cold, and oftentimes violent marriage, she is very abruptly widowed when her husband goes to his rival's land and just doesn't return. She's now left vulnerable because her late husband's family is pretty ruthless and they want the land that she inherited because she got everything. Her only chance for survival ends up lying with Gerald? What was his name? Gerard? I hope that's right. Gerald sounds like an old man. I don't think it was that. Whatever. He was called Sovereign throughout the book. He's pretty powerful and enigmatic, kind of reclusive, keeps to himself, but was the rival of her husband, and he has eyes for her. Basically, he offers his protection because she's running into some issues and a new dominant relationship, but it all comes at a price, and that's complete submission. See what I did there? So, this one, I apologize if I get a little bit detailed and riled up. My affect is so flat right now. Would you even know if I got riled up? Probably not. But I buddy read this one. I have a lot of feelings. I have a lot of notes from this because of that. So I apologize in advance if I just feel like I'm hammering in on the same concepts a lot. What I'll say about this book is that it leans very hard into the erotica territory. There is almost no plot, a whisper. And unfortunately, I just don't feel like the way the erotica portions were done really benefited and like developed the connection between the characters. That felt way too instant, too intense. It really lacked that emotional depth and development that you needed to make it feel believable. And then when the spice isn't really contributing to that either, it was a little hard to buy these two as a couple. The setup basically is like 50 Shades meets Yellowstone, where there's like an actual formal BDSM contract, but it's bizarre because the heroine's constantly unsure of the rules when they're in play, when they're not, frequently expresses fear and anxiety about what's expected of her. I think what's hard about this in particular, is that she's coming out of an abusive relationship, and so this doesn't feel empowering to have another man just lording power over her. And it kind of felt like the author, with the hero in particular, it felt like she was trying to be dark with him, but also make him palatable and likable for the masses because he's also really super into her. So almost honestly makes that part feel more messed up because he thinks he's a good guy that's helping her and not just leaning into the dark side and like, yeah, I'm a bad guy. And then frames all these weird things as vulnerability. At one point, he pulls a gun on her during sex, and that is framed as him being vulnerable. I'm sorry, my guy, but go to fucking therapy. That's not vulnerability. What the fuck are you talking about? And also, oh my god, beyond that, so that was really weird, but also the hero claims to be able to smell her ovulation. What in the Resand bullshit is that? What? So you have these really bizarre elements, and so these emotional beats feel really unearned. All of a sudden, they're just like, I feel very connected and like I've never trusted anybody more, but then like all the actions don't show that. And then you add in some like really bizarre backstory bits that were just kind of strange and just like felt over the top. It felt like it was like trauma dump at one point, and that was supposed to build the relationship. It didn't. There's no plot, there's no character growth. The spice, it was just noise. And Lynn and I kept sending voice notes back and forth where we're like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know what happened in that section of, or like, how is there still more book? Like that voice note went back and forth multiple times. This honestly should have been a novella. This should not have been a full-length novel with 2 epilogues. It had no business having 2 epilogues. Rating of 2 stars, but honestly, after just describing it again, I'm really tempted to give it 1 star. This was not good. And all right, next up I have The Paper Swan, and this is by Leah Adder? Layla Adder? Layla Adder. This is a standalone. It's a captor-captive, and it's got like organized crime. Our heroine's name is Sky, and she has lived a pretty wealthy and privileged life of excess until a mysterious man named Damian ends up kidnapping her just short of her 24th birthday. Now she has to figure out while she's on this boat why this man has captured her. She's in the middle of the ocean with someone who seems to be very deeply troubled and also very brutal. So, thoughts on this? I don't know. I was really sad that I didn't really end up caring for this. A big chunk of the book is like flashbacks to the hero and heroine's past. And well, you know, it definitely contributes to character development and why they turned out why they did. It's just not really the plot I'm looking for. Basically, a third of the book, the characters when they were way underage, like young. I don't like when books focus a lot on the childhood. There were some attempts to kind of demonstrate that Stockholm Syndrome was like taking root when we were in the present timeline, but it felt more like an academic understanding of how it works rather than something that was like really felt or felt believable. And I think overall, it just lacked an emotionality. It felt very dry, especially based on the content and based on the feelings of the hero and heroine. You just think that it would have a little bit more. I think the best way I can kind of describe the tone of this book is that it reminded me of like a trad pub romantic suspense more than it did like a dark romance. Like if I was to picture who this author is, I'm picturing a gray-haired woman. She's like 60, 70. She's got 100 books in her backlist. This is the type of person that I picture writing a book like this. Like it's not quite the tone and style that I like. At 60%, I did end up DNFing this because they really weren't spending like a lot of meaningful time together. It was a lot of montages. It was a lot of past tense storytelling, and I was just not connecting with them in the current timeline. So like I said, I DNF'd it. Next up, I had The Whispers and the Roars by K. Webster. This is a standalone. It's a dark romance. It's got like mental health and a second chance. So there's an author's note in here that says this is best experience when you don't know very much about it. So I'm just going to give a very basic overview about what this is about. More or less, the heroine is quite poor. The hero is very wealthy though, and when we meet up with them in the book, he's coming back for her after having earned his degree, and he's like back to get her for good. This also had a lot of flashbacks. I hate flashbacks. I can't express to you how much I don't care about flashbacks. Flashbacks and dreams, immediately I want to skip. It just made the story feel like it was really dragging, and there's a lot of vague references to like something that happened in the past. Like there's a police officer and like what broke them up. At about 30%, I figured out what the twist was. I had my suspicions because I've read a book like this before. It just started to feel really obvious to me, and I didn't care about the characters enough or like the story enough outside of waiting for that build to the twist that I really wanted to continue reading. So I DNF'd it, no rating. Next up, I read God of Malice, and this is by Rena Kent. This is the first in the Legacy of God series. It's a dark, it's kind of mafia, but not really. It's more like adjacent to the mafia. Basically, the heroine is mourning the death of her friend. She goes to the cliff where he died and ends up attracting the attention of a sociopath who is taking photos of her and also kind of like dangles her off the edge. And in exchange for a favor, he pulls her to safety and back from the cliff edge. Now she's in his sights, and they go to universities that are very close and very near each other. He is very slowly manipulating her and taking control of her life. I'm sad to report, I don't understand the love for this book. I hate that I don't like this book. Here's the thing that sucks about this. There's nothing wrong with this book. There's nothing that I'm like looking at, I'm like, hate that. It's just like really average, I feel like. Outside of that beginning scene, which I kind of suspect is why it's so popular, honestly, because it starts out so intense. I kind of think that that's like the draw, the hook, because like my notes at like 30 and 50% in, I don't have any feelings about this. I hope it picks up soon. The plot, I feel like has like a lot going on, and you know, granted, it's on the thicker side, so there's like room to include all of these things, but it's got like a secret society, an initiation, a school rivalry, an underground fight club. But really the plot ends up being him just kind of showing up, her going, no, I don't want you here. Him being like, no, I don't care, I'm a sociopath. And her being like, oh, wait, maybe I kind of like it. Wait, no, I said no. And that just kind of like cycles throughout the book. There's so many characters in this series. You're getting introduced to people who will be in the books after this, but you're also getting cameos from people from the previous series that this is interconnected with. If a series is interconnected, there's always this point in the book where the characters have to sit around blowing smoke up each other's ass. about how much they like each other, how cool they think the other person is, and how beautiful or amazing or understanding. They just have to talk about how this person is the greatest person that they've ever met. And because there's such a big cast in this series and the past series, we have to do that with so many characters. I genuinely don't care if characters get along between books. Like, I wouldn't expect them to, honestly, in a lot of cases, especially with the dark romance. I digress. For the most part, I really didn't have issues with this book. Honestly, the cast of characters and the size of it and the campiness with that was probably my biggest issue. But other than that, it was like kind of a classic dark romance. I'm giving this a rating of 3 stars. It's fine. I don't really get the hype and I'm really sad. I keep trying this series hoping that I'm gonna love it and I just don't. I need to stop trying this series because honestly, I'm just keep getting so disappointed. All right, next up I read Salt and apparently I didn't write down the author's name. It'll be on the cover here. So first in a proper series, it's a dystopian sci-fi pirate. So basically, her heroine's name is Bird and she's a pretty reckless sailor, which is kind of a requirement in a very flooded world where you need to like sail between communities. But she's like barely keeping it together. She's fighting and she's drinking and she ends up getting herself expelled from the school that she's at. She's also suffering with gaps in her memory, perhaps from the drinking, and ends up stealing a very important stone, tries to hawk it on the black market to get some cash to meet up with her brother, who was presumed dead until he sends a message to come to this far off town because he has a job for her. She ends up getting the attention of the underground world, so she ends up roping in her sailing instructor and sometimes friend, Sargo Paz, and he is reluctantly along for the ride as they're forced to flee their city and cross these very treacherous waters into basically the unknown. They haven't really explored outside of their immediate area. And as threats close in, so do their feelings for one another. Ooh, felt like the Sith. So, thoughts on this? Oh, I need to reposition and prop myself up against my knees again. This book has such a promising concept. Dystopian, pirates, sci-fi, reminding me of those old, what is that? Treasure Planet. That's the vibe it was giving initially. I was so excited. Unfortunately, I just feel like the execution really fell flat because the heroine was deeply immature, had this lack of self-awareness. Honestly, I found myself empathizing with her nemesis and the people she was fighting against more often than I was with her. She made a lot of reckless choices and then was very upset when people call her out on it. And I was like, I don't feel bad for you. You're being held accountable for your own actions. Equally as unconvincing and frustrating was that the romance was like not that great. The heroine and hero bicker quite literally like children, and not in like a bantery way, but like in an actual immature, like stupid way. Their chemistry just never really clicked for me, I think, because of that. She was too reckless, he was too passive. Neither felt like particularly capable, especially when we're talking about trying to escape. And then like the smut just felt shoehorned in. She would have a sudden horny intrusive thought and then get after it. It was really weird. It was so strange. I stuck with it for a while because honestly, I was really busy. Just didn't have the time to research or find something else to pick up. And once a library loan came in, I ended up DNFing it. So at that point, I was 75% in, but I just didn't really care to finish, to be honest. All right, last one. I have Torn by Stella Hart. So this is a prequel for a series. It's a cult dark romance. I don't want to say too much about this book, but basically our heroine's dad started a cult. So when we meet the hero and heroine, his family is coming to just say hi to her dad because their dads had previously done business together. And they're like, what is going on here? This is feeling like a cult. And then it's like how he ends up ultimately gaining control of the cult and like what their belief system looks like.
All right, hello. I feel the need to clarify because honestly, I didn't even understand what I was saying here. The he I'm referring to that started the cult is the heroine's dad, not the hero or the hero's dad. There was too many he's going on. Anyway, back to it.
So I have to give a huge shout out to Carissa. Her Instagram handle is Carissa Reads. I'll put it on the screen here. In a previous vlog, I asked if anyone knew of a romance that took place on a cult compound, and she messaged me like a month later and was like, I found it. I found it. I found the book you're looking for. So I immediately ended up picking up this book. I binged it on a plane ride. I just love this introduction to kind of like the creepy cult tactics. I can't wait to move on to the second book. But I got interrupted because right now I'm doing a buddy read and I'm trying to read an arc. I have to attend to my commitments rather than binge the series. That is the first thing I'm going to do as soon as these new releases stop coming at me. Rating of 5 stars. So excited to get on to the rest of the series. Carissa, I love you. Thank you so much. This was such a good recommendation. And with all of that, that's the last bit of my energy. Those are all the books that I read and DNF'd in April. I'm so sorry that my energy is so low, but I'm really proud of myself for getting this filmed. I would love to hear down below what was the favorite thing that you read this month. If you've read any of these books, let me know if you had the same or different experience with all of that. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like this video if you did end up liking it, and don't forget to subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me. And I really hope that I see you on my next video where I'm fully recovered from my flu. Bye-bye.